Stagnation of biological evolution, evolution of catastrophes. In the block Leaps of Evolution, I showed that biological evolution occurs in leaps and stagnations, and not more or less evenly, as Charles Darwin's theory suggests. In fact, biological evolution has occurred and can continue to occur at a relatively rapid pace, as if in leaps. Such a state can only exist when special conditions are created, when there is a sufficiently large free territory. Such conditions could only exist when the Earth was not yet fully populated by existing species of living beings, or be forming after catastrophes that occurred on Earth. In the block Leaps of Evolution, I also answered the question: why did all the intermediate species of living beings disappear, which, according to Darwin's teachings, were stronger in the struggle for existence than the previous species, but it was the previous species that remained until now? In fact, the intermediate species of living beings were weaker than their predecessors, but it was without these weaker intermediate species that there could be no transition to the next stronger species of living beings. Next, we will consider the state and how biological evolution proceeds when there is no such free territory. In this block, I will also answer the question how most biological species, especially higher ones that inhabit our Earth, stopped changing in their development and do not form new species. I will also prove that the natural biological evolution of man in the current conditions has already ended and cannot continue. The conclusions from the theory of Charles Darwin, the origin of species, could not explain these questions. In conditions of predatory struggle, in the absence of sufficient free territory, the species that is a victim experiences a significant slowdown, almost a halt in its genetic evolution, and only the development of individual organs take place, as a result of which the species achieves a certain stability. This is why some more primitive species do not evolve throughout subsequent history, because they did not find enough territory free from stronger species for their evolution. The presence of weaker species in the territory of free zones at that time did not prevent the evolution of stronger and higher species of living beings. That is, weaker species do not constitute significant competition for the stronger species during the evolution processes, but often help them in this. This is why the fastest biological evolution was achieved by the most developed species of living beings, because they had sufficient free space without strong competitors, of their evolution. Here lies the answer to that third question I posed about the greatest variability of higher beings. If there is free land, then evolution proceeds at an accelerated pace. If the land is overpopulated, then the struggle between living beings becomes increasingly fierce, and biological evolution slows down significantly. If the Earth is currently overpopulated, then why don't genetic changes occur among so many individuals? They do occur, but due to the lack of isolation, due to the lack of free territory, they are not fixed in the offspring. If any genetic deviation occur in someone, they will not be able to give a stable continuation. The lack of free space for settlement also leads to cross-fertilization, which significantly erases genetic changes among interspecific types, which also slows down the processes of evolution. This is where the stagnation of evolution comes from. This theory explains that the evolution of higher types of living organisms in the natural environment has already ended. That is, it cannot reach the final stage due to the lack of free territories. This also applies to humans. That is why the biological evolution of humans has ended and cannot proceed further. The rapid evolution that occurs in microbiology is explained by the burst of death of microbial population due to human activity and the restoration of free areas for the development of the latter. Catastrophes for microorganisms occur much more often. I don't think that in order to restore human biological evolution, it is necessary to artificially create a catastrophe on Earth. For example, a nuclear war could start. I am afraid that then the rapid evolution of man could go in the opposite direction. And this is what terrorist groups and dictators of individual states are bringing us closer to. They have already undergone reverse evolution.